Canavan to my question.
Thank you, Senator Rice.
Minister Canavan and the government in general are living in a fantasy land when it comes to the impacts of native forest logging, where just because you say something is sustainable, therefore it becomes sustainable. Whereas the reality is that intensive industrial-scale clearfell logging is as sustainable and long-term as whaling and sealing were in their day. The minister was totally ignoring the facts that are at play here when we're considering the future of our forests. The facts are that in the Victoria's Central Highlands there is much less forest available for logging because of the huge areas that were lost in the 2009 fires. And so the Victorian government has responded by recognising that if we are going to have an industry reliant on those native forests, that we need to cut back the rate substantially. And if you cut back the rate to what's a sustainable level of what's currently available, that makes that level commercially unviable. And that's what's playing out now. On the other hand, if you keep on logging at the current rates, that timber will be all gone within just a few years. That is not long-term, that's not sustainable, that is not going to be what saves the jobs of the Hayfield mill workers or is in the long-term interests of the Hayfield community. And the other critical factor, of course, is that the forests that are currently being logged at an unsustainable rate are the same forests that the critically endangered Leadbeater's possum requires to survive. And that if we log all of those forests, what is inevitable is that that will be the death knell for Leadbeater's possums. It's now the mountain ash forests are recognised as a critically endangered ecosystem. The Leadbeater's possum is critically endangered. Unless we protect enough of that forest, that will be goodbye. The Leadbeater's possum will be gone on our watch. So it was a huge concern that the only proposal that the minister provided in his answer to my question as to what to do about this situation is to bring forward extra years' supply and to log protected areas. This is not sustainable. This is not in the interests of either the wood products industry or the environment. And it's not going to save the Hayfield jobs. It's just going to be putting off the inevitable. And basically, it's like giving the whaling fleet just open slather access to whale sanctuaries. The minister totally ignored the nub of my question, which was about the transition that is underway in the wood products industry in Australia that needs to be supported and needs to be encouraged and needs to be completed. And that's the transition out of that outdated, old, dig it up, log it, chop it down mentality and the shift to plantations. And we're now in a situation where 85% of the wood products being produced in Australia are coming from plantations. That is the future of the industry. Any forward-thinking government would be recognising that and saying, OK, how do we shift now that remaining last bit of the industry to plantations, not to be propping up that damaging outdated industry that's based on native forests. And the other critical factor, of course, is that by completing that transition to plantations and protecting native forests, from a jobs perspective, that is a win-win, because you can then facilitate and allow the jobs in the recreation industries and the tourism industries to flourish. And that's where there is so much potential employment in those areas. So we can have ongoing jobs in the wood product industry being based on plantations, increasing that 85% to 100%, and we can then unlock the tourism potential of our native forests. And it's a total furphy to say that if we don't log our forests that we are going to import more. In fact, we are exporting hardwood saw logs from our native forests. In Victoria, there was 24,000 cubic metres of hardwood logs that were exported from our forests. This is not a matter of protecting international forests. This is just the industry going on a rampage. It's possible to end the forest wars by transitioning the timber industry to plantations completely. We can be saving timber jobs and we can be protecting our forests for their wildlife, for their water, as carbon stores, soaking up and storing that carbon that we need to do, and to be protecting our jobs for everyone to enjoy, all Australians, all Melbournians.